Let's go first now to my colleague Vuyo Mvoko. Good morning to you, Vuyo.
Thank you, Griselda, and welcome to the Standard Bank Arena. This, of course, being where the official funeral service of the former Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Sicelo Shiceka, will be held. Of course, dignitaries have already started arriving. Several cabinet ministers, MECs from other provinces across South Africa, friends of Mr. Sicelo Shiceka, traditional leaders, friends, and a whole host of other people who will be paying tribute today to the former minister are already here. They've already started arriving. Well, before I tell you about what's going to happen here and who is going to do what, I'll first go to Tammy Dixon on the other side of the Standard Bank Arena, who's going to tell us what will be happening that side. Over to you, Tammy.
We are standing right outside this arena, right at the entrance where the guests and the dignitaries are coming in, people who have come to pay their last respects to the former Minister of Local Government, Sicelo Shiceka. I'm right at the entrance here. This is where the hearse will be coming in a little later on this morning. We are told that they've already left home now. They are on their way here, and they will be coming in here. And at this point where I'm standing, this is where the removal of the ANC flag from the coffin will also be removed, and then the national flag will then drape the coffin, and then the service will then continue. There's more that we'll be telling you about and showing you here as we stand outside here. But for now, let's go back to the studio to Griselda.
Thank you very much to my colleagues Vuyo Mvoko and Tammy Dixon live at the Standard Bank Arena. Now it's 13 days today since the passing of Sicelo Shiceka. Since then, the presidency, political parties and labor movement COSATU amongst some who praised Shiceka for his hard work and commitment, while also acknowledging some of his faults. Let's take a look back at the man that was.
Shiceka's political life started very early. He was just 14 years when he joined the banned ANC in 1980. His political career was spawned in these turbulent times, from student politics to union involvement.
The differences between the allies.
Those who knew him say he never lost his optimism and confidence of a free and democratic South Africa, one that will ultimately be led by the ANC. After the ANC was unbanned in 1990, Shiceka nailed his mast to SACP. He was elected to its Gauteng PEC, and by 1992 he was elected Provincial Secretary of COSATU. Simultaneously, he was scaling the ranks of the ANC. Shiceka would eventually become a member of the 80-strong National Executive Committee of the ANC. In a new democratic dispensation post-1994, Shiceka became Gauteng's local government MEC. He was also elected to Parliament's National Council of Provinces.
Constitution and all other law of the Republic.
In 2008, Shiceka was appointed Minister of Provincial and Local Government by then-President Kgalema Motlanthe. It was a tough portfolio, inundated with cash-strapped municipalities that were also hamstrung by a lack of administrative capacity and technical skills. But Shiceka accepted the challenge.
The allocation of resources, particularly money, from national government, provincial government and local, is not demonstrating the importance of local government. It means the resources that are allocated there are not enough.
Explosive service delivery protests over poor municipal services have always been the biggest problem facing local government. Ratepayers associations worsened the situation when they boycotted municipal rates and taxes. Shiceka met with the aggrieved ratepayers to avert the potential financial crisis that threatened municipalities.
That step is not correct, but we believe that it's a disparate measure because people want to be heard so that government is able to listen and sit down with them and engage. But our mantra is that people must pay for services. If people pay for services, government is going to deliver.
Shiceka quickly rolled up his sleeves and provided political leadership in crafting a turnaround strategy of municipalities. In the main, the strategy sought to rescue collapsing and financially ailing municipalities. It's a plan he died while still implementing it.
And we have set a target that says that by 2014, all provincial governments and municipalities across the country, there will be clean audits in this country. It's a tall order, but I think that we are capable of reaching that.
Shiceka also sought to reverse the culture of non-payment of municipal services and to unleash a crackdown on corrupt local government.
Municipalities are being owed over 56 billion rands. There is no doubt in my mind that the issue when you don't give money for services, that money is supposed to be used to ensure that services are provided. It has an impact on the budget of the municipality.
He also had to deal with party political battles which often spilled over to cripple municipalities as people fought over positions.
Disagreements and fights within the ANC permeate in municipalities, where you find that municipalities are given sometimes illegal instructions that are not constitutional, that are not out of policy because people are pushing for a particular view.
The 2005 controversial municipal demarcations was one of the complex issues that Shiceka eventually had to handle. Residents of Merafong, which includes Khutsong Township, took to the streets in violent protests, refusing to be removed from Gauteng and be incorporated into the Northwest Province. They complained that their standard of living would plummet in Northwest because, in their view, its provincial government was less efficient in service delivery than the Gauteng government. The onus was then on Shiceka to reverse the decision.
Merafong is part of Gauteng. Therefore, it is that logic that has made us, the people of this country, an ANC-led government, to say we have made a mistake.
The last year of Shiceka's political life, however, was plagued by controversy and scandal. He was placed on sick leave since February last year, but the nature of his illness was never disclosed. In October, President Jacob Zuma fired him. This was after he was implicated in the abuse of public funds by Public Protector Thuli Madonsela. It was alleged that he spent over R1 million in unauthorized accommodation and travel expenses. This included an alleged trip to Switzerland to visit his girlfriend, imprisoned in that country for drug smuggling. Shiceka, however, remained defiant to the end and refuted those findings.
Long live the spirit of Comrade Sicelo Shiceka, long live!
Tammy Dixon, SABC News.
That incident compiled by my colleague Tammy Dixon, who's live at the Standard Bank Arena this morning. If you've just tuned in, we're live here on SABC2 bringing you coverage of the funeral of the former Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Sicelo Shiceka. Let's cross now live to my colleague Vuyomvoko, who's at the Standard Bank Arena with Tammy Dixon. Now this is where the funeral service is about to get underway. Vuyo?
Thank you, Griselda. Well, we are indeed live from the Standard Bank Arena. Mourners continue to arrive. Several cabinet ministers are already here, including Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula, Minister Collins Chabane are already here. So are members, senior officials of the African National Congress, which is the organization that Sicelo Shiceka belonged to. The Treasurer General of the ANC, Matthew Sposa, is already here. The Inkosi Yamambondo is also here. He will also be paying tribute to the former minister. You are watching a live broadcast from the Standard Bank Arena. People like Patigile Olomisa are already here. Several MECs, I saw the MEC for local government in the Eastern Cape is also here, and so are several other MECs from other provinces. Let's go back now to another insert by Tammy Dixon.
Thank you very much. With me now is the Executive Mayor of Ekurhuleni, who's going to share with us his thoughts on the passing of the former Minister of Local Government, Sicelo Shiceka. Tatumondli Kungubele, you know Comrade Shiceka very well, as you refer to him. Tell us what are some of the moments that you remember of Untate Shiceka?
It is the excitement with which he entered government, the energy, the passion, the presence at the beginning, how he was innovative in terms of setting slogans around the city regeneration. Slogans like Vusana Madolop. He was very popular for that. He was very passionate about commitment to service delivery, in particular payments for service. Some will remember when he cut cables at some stage in Springs, trying to make sure that people try to live up as responsible citizens. Right. He has been a very colorful person with regard to enjoying how to open new projects. Right. He would say at times, cutting a ribbon was about opening a project. And he would say, you must count how many ribbons you have cut. He was excited about all the things that were a sign of change and indeed coming into place of a new South Africa.
And you were the first cadres of the ANC to form the provincial government in Gauteng. I'm told that he was very young at the time. Yes. He was only 27 years old. How was that experience? Because you were part of that first provincial government as well.
Not exactly, but we entered, I was part of the first MPLs, but I was with him from the time he was a staff member of a union to the time he was a secretary of COSATU in the West region. And when we started together the new government, I was some kind of a shadow MEC because you remember it was a government of national unity. So the transport department was led by National Party. So I was a chairperson. So I had to meet the shadow cabinet. That's how we interacted. As I'm saying, he was very energetic, very vocal. And there's a township called Sicelo Shiceka, if you go to the south of Joburg. That is a demonstration of how we interacted with ordinary people and how we always try to make sure that as we were entering this new era, there was a demonstration that it was making a difference in the lives of ordinary people.
Mayor, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, that was the Executive Mayor of Ekurhuleni region here in the Gauteng province, recalling and recollecting some of the moments that he shared with Sicelo Shiceka when they were part of the first provincial government here in the Gauteng province in 1994. Let's go back to Vuyo now in the auditorium.
Well, thanks there to Tommy Dixon, who was, of course, speaking to the mayor of Ekurhuleni, who knows, in fact, Sicelo Shiceka very well. For those of us who've been covering this bit for quite some time, he was indeed a close ally and a close friend, someone he worked with. I remember back in the early 90s, especially at the time when the former premier of Gauteng, Tokyo Sekwale, had to leave office, and the new leadership had to be elected. Sicelo Shiceka and Mondli Kungubele were among the people who were very active in trying in the change of leadership, and there were quite some controversies, I must say, at the time, but we will not talk about that today. Well, right now, of course, the hearse has already arrived. It is indeed here, and people are coming into the hall ready for the funeral service of Minister Sicelo Shiceka, which we'll be bringing live to you for the next 2 hours or so. What you're seeing in front of your screen is, of course, the hearse, and his body will be taken in, and we will be explaining to you in a few minutes how exactly this decision was arrived at, but also how it is going to be conducted. We'll explain to you how the various categories are sort of differ from each other, and of course their meaning for the people that usually who are at the receiving end of these kinds of ceremonies. Lindy Wemaseko is standing next to the chaplain. She is, of course, as all of you would know, the Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Government. Next to her is the national, is one of the spokespersons of the African National Congress, based at the headquarters, Luthuli House. Inside, people have already started singing. Members of the ANC Women's League, members of the South African Defence Force are here, and so are senior officials of the African National Congress at national level as well as at provincial level. They are already here, ready to start with the proceedings here at the Standard Bank Arena. If you've just joined us, you're watching a live broadcast from the Standard Bank Arena in Johannesburg, this being where the official funeral service of former Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Sicelo Shiceka, will be held. People you see there is the former Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Government, but who is now a senior manager who is leading the city of Johannesburg. Next to him is the former mayor of Johannesburg, who also used to be the chairperson of the South African Local Government Association. All of them here to pay tribute to one of their own, a person who was very active in local government, both at a political, organizational, political level, but also at the level of government as the minister or former minister of governance and traditional, cooperative governance and traditional affairs. Members of the Youth League here in Gauteng were broken into song, so here ready to pay tribute to the former minister. The Premier of Gauteng, Nomvula Mokanyane, as well as other senior members of her provincial cabinet are here, seated, ready for the proceedings to kick off. Well, you're watching live pictures of the funeral service of former Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Sicelo Shiceka. Right now, the coffin is, of course, still being draped in ANC colors. That is about to change, but we'll explain to you how that is going to be done and what it means. The people, of course, carrying the coffin, as you can see there, it's the Treasurer General of the ANC, Mr. Matthew Posa, and behind him is the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the Speaker of the Gauteng Legislature. These are his ANC comrades who are carrying. On the other side is the Minister of Health. They are, of course, taking his body inside the Standard Bank Arena, where the official proceedings, the official funeral, will be taking place and is about to kick off in a few minutes' time. Well, right here with me in the studio, I am being joined by Commander Prince Chabalala from the South African National Defence Force, who is going to explain to us what exactly is going to happen in the next few minutes. Welcome, Commander, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Julio.
Very briefly, what is an official funeral?
An official funeral is basically where there's no gun salute. The state president decides on a citizen or an official who have served the country with dignity, loyalty, and professionalism. In this instance, we know that the late Honorable former Minister Shiceka also served the country, and it is the prerogative of the state president to afford that category 1 official funeral.
Now, as soon as once that decision gets taken by the country's president, what happens on your side? In other words, what are the sort of processes that you have to start kicking off?
That will officially mean that it becomes now the National Defence Force official funeral, military funeral, in other words, where we get to involve, where there will be a chief mourner will be appointed, and then that will depend on the service, which will become a lead service. In this instance, South African Navy has been afforded an opportunity to be the lead service for this official funeral.
Is it on a rotational basis?
It's on a rotational basis, and then what will then happen, pall bearers, who are normally your one-star generals and admirals, will then be appointed, including the master warrant officers, who are senior warrant officers of the National Defence Force from all arms of services. So you'll find that all components of the National Defence Force is represented today.
Who are one-star general? What exactly?
The one-star general will be normally your flag officers, your rear admiral junior grade in the side of the Navy, and then on the side of the South African Army will be your brigadier general, including the Air Force as well as the South African Military Health Services.
So these are the most senior officials.
These are the most senior officials.
It's as good as it gets.
Yes, being the chief mourner, being a two-star general or admiral. That would be major general or rear admiral.
Now, take us through what is going to happen here today. Now, from the time once right now the coffin is being carried by senior members of the ANC, his political party. Once he gets inside here, once the proceedings are about to start, what's going to happen?
What we'll see, Voyo, is that the pall bearers will assume their position, led by the chaplain general, in the sense that will be Brigadier General Reverend Andrew Chamangile, who will then actually declare that this is officially becoming a military funeral, which means that the National Defence Force takes over that responsibility, and that means finally the civilian part is ending officially, and you will see that he will normally proceed with the ceremony, very short, and then call the bearers in this instance to take their position, and then that will be followed by pall bearers taking their position as well. Then the coffin will be taken with a slow march, which is in a kind of a drill which honors the deceased, and then they will move in that pace up until such a time we are ready to proceed to the cemetery. And then from the outside, you'd see Vuyo, there would be a leading detachment. As I indicated before, that the Navy in this sense is a lead detachment, and they will then be joined by the South African National Ceremonial Guard, who will then become the street lining party, and then they will then proceed to the funeral. And then from the funeral, that becomes the second part of the official Category 1 military funeral.
Okay. Commander Prince Shabalala, I want to park you right here for now. We'll now go back inside the Standard Bank Arena to listen to the proceedings there and what's going to happen next.
Hayi ningacula maqabani into nayo nisihlale phansi. Emsabalazweni emsabalazweni
Well, senior members of the ANC, ready for the proceedings. The official funeral to start. The program director is the Minister of Correctional Services, Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngagula, and there you can see the senior members of the South African National Defence Force that Prince Shabalala spoke about, carrying his coffin, followed, of course, behind them are members of former Minister Shiceka's family, who will also be paying tribute to their father, their relative, their brother, their cousin, some of his cousins there, all of them coming to pay their last respects to the former minister. Commander, it's the chaplain in front.
This is Chaplain Andrew, Chaplain General of the National Defence Force, Chaplain Andrew Chambanile, and we are seeing the bearers doing the slow march, which is actually a modern military funeral, is detected by solemn music as prescribed for military funerals. The slow march, however, just to give you the background where it comes from, it arose from the practice of using heavy artillery weapon to transport the remains to the grave, and the custom arose during the reign of Henry V. And normally in the olden days they would accompanied by the drummers, but we have since changed that policy. You will find that because it's a official category 1 funeral, there will be no drum as well. As you can see, the pallbearers, which are master warrant officers of the National Defence Force coming from all 4 services, they are now laying the coffin into the stand, and where they will immediately assume stand attention position, as you can see, and then after that they will then march and move towards the other position, and we will then allow the program to continue, and which will then preceded by the pallbearers and the whole phase, the second part of the precision taking place again once the ceremony
tributes have been paid.
Has been paid.
I see that already the ANC flag has been removed, and now we have the country's flag draping the coffin. Well, if you've just joined this live broadcast, we are at the Standard Bank Arena, where the members of government, members of the ANC, family members are paying tribute, paying their last respect to the former Minister of Cooperative Governance, Sicelo Shiceka, who died almost a couple of weeks ago. Members of cabinet are here, quite a number of them, and so are senior members of the ANC, both at national level and at provincial level here in Gauteng. The provincial chairperson of the ANC here in Gauteng, who is also the national minister of arts and culture, will be among those people who will be paying tributes over the next hour or so, and so will members of the family, traditional leaders, as well as friends. You're watching a live broadcast of the official funeral service of former Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Sicelo Shiceka, who passed away about 2 weeks ago. The proceedings got underway only a short while ago. What's going to happen next is members of the family of the government will be paying tribute. Right now, the national anthem is about to be sung.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. My name is Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula. I am the Minister of Correctional Services and I will be directing this program this morning. May I now call Reverend Kamede to lead us in devotions. Thank you.
We sing hymn 278 in the Methodist Xhosa hymn book. Kose sehla ngene kuyo indlu yakho Let us pray. Ngena kwesino ngena kwethu lenhlanganiso. Sicela ikhokelwe umoya wakho ingcwele. Khokela Nkosi lenkonzo ukuze ibe inkonzo yosuku nobungcwalisa bakho. Sicela Thixo wethu ukuba ibe inkonzo yentuthuzelo kwelikhaya labaShiceka. Ibe inkonzo yokwamkela oko kungena utshintsho. Sithi ke Nkosi bonke abazawuthi babe namazwi abazawenza kwelikhaya baphefumulele ngomoya wakho ingcwele ukuze wonke lo msebenzi ekugqibeleni ibe ngumsebenzi obonakalisa uzuko lwakho nenkonzo yombulelo ngobomi bukaSicelo Shiceka. Thamsanqeliseke ukhokele uYesu Kristu inkosi yethu. Amen.
Shall we rise, please? May I now invite Ms. Tumelo Mokoena to read the obituary. Ms. Tumelo Mokoena. Mr. Tumelo Mokoena. Sorry.
Obituary of Sicelo Shiceka. Sicelo Shiceka was born on the 8th of June 1966 in the small village of Inyuza Hill, near Flagstaff in the Eastern Cape. He attended Mhlanga Primary School in Lusukisiki, and in 1979 he joined his mother, who at the time was working as a nursing assistant at an old age home in Soweto. He went to Jabulani Junior Secondary School, where he quickly became a leading figure in student politics. His mother sent him to stay with his sister in Durban, and he matriculated at Inanda High School. Back in Soweto, he became a leader of the Azanian student movement, which was affiliated to the Azanian People Organization, AZAPO. In 2001, he married Cleopatra Salapi Madlamini, and their union was blessed with a daughter, Bonolo Mandisa. Sicelo was affectionately known as SS to most who worked with him during his life. He was a grandson of one of the pioneers of the struggle against the apartheid regime, a man who led the resistance against the white regime and refused to pay the hated island tax. The struggle of resistance was forced in 1963 at Inyuza Hill, where most of our leaders lost their lives. Today, that resistance is known as the Inyuza Hill Massacre. The whole family is politically astute and was actively involved in the struggle. So it is not surprising that Comrade Sicelo committed himself to the struggle for the liberation of his people. This was a man of boundless energy and always hard at work, without expecting any reward from anyone. Those who worked with him had attested to the fact that he was not a lazy fellow. He dedicated his whole life to the benefit of our people. Comrade Sicelo was not afraid of confrontation when it was necessary and dealing with matters if you had crossed the line, but without holding any grudges. We talk about a man who was in a class of his own, a man who was not afraid of putting across his idea, even when it might be controversial. On the softer side of life, his lone love for Orlando Pirates was equally passionate and uncompromising. And this Baga was prepared to be controversial for his club. Sicelo's political life was dynamic and full of interesting events. He always enjoys his robust engagements on various issues with his comrades, and he had an amazing relationship at all levels of our movement. He was one of those comrades who were accessible to all, and at no point did he celebrate other comrades' misfortune or political mishaps. Comrade Sicelo was a unionist in the early 1990s and a provincial secretary of the Paper Printing, Wood and Allied Workers Union, an affiliate of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU. This aspect of his life was focused on and dedicated to turning the tide of suffering and hardship for the benefit of ordinary workers, most of whom were poor and marginalized. We are, therefore, not out of order if we attribute some of the achievements of the workers at the dawn of the democratic dispensation to persons such as Sokude. Those who were involved in the struggle then will attest to this. He grew up in the movement guided by the doctrines of John Dube, Albert Luthuli, Paisley Kaiseme, Solomon Mahlangu, Owar Tambo, Walter Sisulu, and other heroes of the struggle. He crisscrossed the streets of Soweto, Kagiso, Kyalami, Flagstaff, eThekwini, Cape Town, serving the people of this country through the organization that he so dearly loved, the African National Congress. He was a true embodiment of the selfless struggles that characterized the ANC. He led the South African Communist Party in Gauteng and served the ANC up to the level of the National Executive Committee. He served the people of the then Kalami region, Gauteng, with distinction, and also served as the NEC deployee in the Northwest. In all instances, he emerged as a soldier full of dedication to his task. He was never status conscious, preparing to focus his considerable energies on solidifying the gains of our democracy. We express our gratitude to this glorious movement for allowing him to serve at these levels. He demonstrated leadership qualities at a very young age, and it was therefore no surprise that he was deployed to serve in the first cabinet of the Gauteng provincial government. He was the youngest provincial cabinet member, 27 years old, when he took office, a task which he executed with distinction. Within the local government sphere, he introduced funding, governance, and legislative frameworks that are the springboard for the local government of today. He perfected the integrated development planning system and the special development prescripts, which were later adopted by the whole third sphere of government. His relentless pursuit of excellence carried through during his service at the national legislature. He served in the various committees, and at some stage he unilaterally appointed himself chairperson of a committee meeting within the then Department of Provincial and Local Government. He proceeded to officiate the meeting as if all committee members were present, even raising and debating contentious issues on his own, much to the amusement of the officials present. Sicelo was indeed a dynamic person. His demonstration of leadership capability and commitment, coupled with service excellence, resulted in his appointment to cabinet during President Kgalema Motlante's administration in 2008 and President Jacob Zuma's from 2009. During his tenure in this portfolio, unknown to the majority of us, he caused the amendment of the Constitution in a record-breaking 3 months to ensure that people of Gauteng were reincorporated into Gauteng. He introduced what is widely known today as the local government turnaround strategy. He initiated the local government cleanup program to deal with corruption and audit findings of the municipalities. Operation Clean Audit 2014, and he will deal with provincial demarcation issues. He initiated a local government cleanup program to deal with corruption and audit findings of municipalities, Operation Clean Audit 2014, and he dealt with provincial demarcation issues head-on as guided by the movement and the executive. Many were fearful of facing the residents of Mautse, Bahamutibi, Batatiel, and Balfo. But this man that lies here went to these areas without compaction. He was decisive. During his term, most of the struggling municipalities were put under administration. He used to say, "I want people to remember me as a person who made decisions, whether wrong or right. But decisions have to be taken." His decisiveness in this time of many economic and political challenges will be sorely missed. And we can only hope that those who remain will emulate those finer qualities of this man. So Kuta was known as Makulubas by his staff and directed the portfolio according to the manifesto of our South African majority under the leadership of the movement. Everybody knew that the center was holding and that there was clear marching orders. Sicelo had a vision of how he wanted local government to evolve to more effectively address the needs of the citizens. It is really sad that he could not steer the ship to the shore due to illness. He led the 2010 World Cup host cities to the successful hosting of this prestigious event, contributing meaningfully to the country's capacity to present such events in the future. He is survived by his wife Cleopatra and her daughter, as well as 9 daughters and 9 sons, his mother, Oscarina, 2 sisters and 1 brother. We will miss his love, his passion and generosity. We say a sad farewell to a committed soldier of the movement who fought for the total liberation of our country, a beloved son, brother, husband, and a father. Lala ngokolo sokude, Mukondwane, you have but only left us in flesh. Your legacy will live on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tumelo. At this point, colleagues, allow me to welcome all of you and to acknowledge the presence of the Shiceka family, ministers, deputy ministers, members of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, premiers, mayors, councillors, inkosi ezikhona phakathi kwethu, kukhona ikumkani yamampondo uZanozuko, clergy, members of parliament and members of legislatures. Welcome, welcome all of you. I will now call and invite Ms. Sicelo Shiceka to read a message from Comrade Sicelo Shiceka's children.
It took me quite a while to sum up the perfect words to describe the type of man my dad was, as he was definitely not a man of few words. All who were fortunate enough to get to know him would know that he was an outspoken person who always stayed true to what he believed in. My dad was passionate, empathetic, loving, and driven. He was the person I went to when I needed encouragement, as I knew by just hearing him say, "Sweetness, don't let those issues that will soon be irrelevant get you down. What is easy never lasts, and what lasts is never easy. I believe in you." My dad taught me many things, both consciously and subconsciously. I valued him dearly. I will miss his smile, his random jokes, his warm hugs, and loving words. Most of all, I will miss the way he used to take precious pictures of us when we were together. Although this is a very hard thing for all of us to go through, but rather than dwelling in his death, we should celebrate the life he had and the impact he had on each and every one of us. I would like to leave you with a poem called Missing You. No words I write can ever say how much I miss you every day. As time goes by, the loneliness grows. How I miss you, nobody knows. I think of you in silence. I often speak your name. But all I have are memories and photos in a frame. No one knows my sorrow. No one sees me weep. But the love I have for you is in my...
Thank you very much, Bunolo. There is a choir here. Are you ready? Very much. Comrades, colleagues, we've come here to celebrate a life well lived. We're celebrating the life of a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, a man who has served in the structures at all levels of the organization, a minister, a former minister, former MEC, and therefore I would like us all to rise and sing. Whenever the choir sings, we join the choir so that indeed we have a celebratory mood in this room. At this point, I will invite Mr. Humphrey Memezi to give us a tribute on behalf of the family. Comrade Memezi is an MEC in our provincial government. Comrade Memezi is a Deputy Secretary of the Provincial Executive Committee of the African National Congress in Gauteng. Welcome, Comrade Humphrey, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Program Director. The honorable ministers here, honorable members of parliament and legislatures, the governing party leadership present here, chaplain generals of both the ANC and our army, my family, the Shiceka family, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, today is the darkest day to us, the Shiceka family. We are, however, comforted by the fact that we are not alone. Many families are grieving with us. Relatives, friends, colleagues, the ANC and its alliance partners, the people of South Africa as a whole are also grieving with us, and that comforts us. I stand here in this funeral representing and mandated by the bereaved Shiceka family. I wish to start by appreciating and give thanks to our government for honoring our son's contribution by giving him the state funeral. I further wish to thank our movement in Gauteng and Eastern Cape for arranging successful memorial services in honor of one of our own, Sicelo Shiceka. We were also humbled and indeed honored by a moving memorial service in the National Assembly in Parliament, graced by the presence of our President, Utata Jacob Zuma. The government decision to give Shiceka state funeral came when many of us family members were bleeding very hard after what happened to their son and their hero. We feel very humbled, fully comforted by what our government has done after the passing away of our hero. Sicelo Shiceka is the son of Makamela, his mother, who is still alive and here is with us. And his father was the late Silinge Ugwilika Kachikega Kakhanqiso Usukude Umkhondwana Ugqakheli phezulu umthwakasewula umuntu akwazi umuntu enanzikile uhaho khalayo uhamzi usantsabe inzala yamampondo. Uhamzi lo ulibone ilanga ngomhla wesibhozo kuJune 1966 kodwa inyaniso ithi 1964, ezalelwa kwilali yasemahamzini enquza hill yodumo elusikisiki. Ifuthe lomzabalazo ulifumene kwimizabalazo eyathatha ithuba elide emampondweni ukusuka ngo1937 kuzothi ga ngo1964 ngethuba lokuzala kwakhe. Program Director, allow us, the family, to take you down the memory line and paint a picture or a scenario that influenced and made Sicelo Shiceka the rock that he became. The story goes like this. During the period when he was born, the Pondos were up in arms, fighting against introduction of Bantu authorities and the imposition of the white regime's chosen agent, the then new system. Chief Mr. X, who had been controversially appointed in 1939 under the old political order, which became the main sore point among most Pondos. The collaboration of some of the chiefs with apartheid government officials was one of the causes of the Pondo revolt, a major event in the resistance history of the rural masses. It was indeed during this hostile period that Sicelo Shiceka was born. He was indeed born in a war. During this period, the Pondos demanded representation in parliament, lower the taxes, and an end to Bantu education. As the result of those wrongdoings by that government of those days, rioting broke out in Lusikisiki and Bizana, to the great surprise of the white regime and its collaborators. The Pondos organized themselves and formed into committees and took to the hills, where they set up a rival administration and gained mass support from almost all the Pondos throughout Pondoland. On 6 June 1960, 13 people, peasants, were killed on the spot at Inguza Hill, and more than 20 people were killed in the villages. Inguza Hill had become the Pondos' main headquarters since the mysterious death of their popular king, King Mandlonke Sigcawu, in 1937, and the imposition of Mr. X by white soldiers against the will and tradition of the Pondos, who wanted Nelson Sigcawu as the rightful king to ascend the throne after the king Mandlonke Sigcawu had died. The peasant revolt was somehow suppressed when about 30 Pondo men were sentenced to death by hanging for the part of the Pondo rebellion. They were mercilessly hanged in Pretoria Maximum Prison in 1964 and were buried in Mamelodi Cemetery. Program Director, we hope you will note and appreciate this piece of history. One of the leaders and organizers of that Pondo rebellion was Sicelo Shiceka's grandfather, Utata Elisa Mfana Lande, and his son, Diliza Lande, Ukamela, who was Sicelo's uncle. Sicelo's mother, Umakamela, is the daughter of a freedom fighter, Utata Mfana Lande. Both Utata Umfana Lande and his son Diliza went to exile and died in Lesotho. And this was the environment that prepared and shaped Sicelo Shiceka. This is the case with Umandisa Shiceka. This is the case with Uzweli Shiceka, Unoti Shiceka. These are the siblings of Shiceka. And almost the whole of his family, they became political animals that today we know. On his father's side, Sicelo is born from a royal family. The elder brother of his father was a senior traditional leader, Inkosi yaseMahamzini, kwaQhanqiso, kwaShiceka. Komkhulu lalingekho igwala kuba xa kuliwa ngabakomkhulu ekwakufanele bakhokhele amabutho xa kuyiwa emfazweni. Beside this, Sicelo Shiceka had to pass the test that most rural boys had to go through. Ukwelusa imfuyo emadlelweni apho ubunyanzelwa ukubetha intonga uzikhusele nalapho wazibalula kakhulu usukude. Abebekhula naye bayamazi wayeyikhupha amangwevu intonga while still in the rural areas of Lusikisiki and Flagstaff. He did his primary school at KwaMhlanga. He also distinguished himself as the best soccer player and was called Josino. And his other name from both Ekweluseni nasesikolweni KwaMhlanga was known as Umankenchane. His father passed on when he was still very young, still in primary school. His mother had to take him and his siblings to Western area where he was an assistant nurse. Because of the difficulties for the black person those days and difficulties of finding a place that one would call a home, she moved from Western area to Soweto, Ezola. He spent a lot of time at Ezola and was already noticeable youth leader of COSAS. To that extent, he was put on the list of the apartheid government wanted to eliminate using a man who was known as Ushuga. From Soweto, Sicelo had to be taken to KwaZulu-Natal in Durban, where he also continued to study. And even there, he was elected to COSAS, and it was indeed by grace of God that he indeed in the end matriculated and even went to university. As the family, we were happy to see him growing up and even achieving university qualification. From Soweto, Sicelo moved and settled in Kagiso in Krugersdorp, where they finally owned the family house. So the people in Westland have a big claim to Sicelo Shiceka family as a whole. As a family members, we have a lot of good stories to tell about Lomtwana wetu ongo Sicelo Shiceka. Although he spent a lot of his time in Gauteng and crisscrossing all over South Africa, Africa and the world, he also created time to intervene and assist in many family issues at his rural place at Emakamzini, Enguza. In short, the man was the backbone of our families. One example of his recent outstanding work for the family was when he pushed and worked very hard for the exhumation from Lesotho and reburial of the remains of his uncle and grandfather, Utata Ulande. This work was preceded by his other outstanding assistants, where he gave ikomkhulula semakamzini. After the death of Inkosi Uzwelebunga Kasgomfane, he gave a lot of assistance. Imisebenzi yakhe mininzi kuthi siyifamily angeke siyigqibe. Ukuyibala iyafana nemisebenzi ayenze emzabalazweni nangexesha ekuhulumente. Elokugqibela, njengabazali bakho na njengabantakwenu uhaha okhalayo sithi hamba kakuhle unike ingxelo koMandisa Shiceka koSigomfana Shiceka kuyihlo uSilinge uGwilika utata omkhulu wakho uLande nakomalume bakho uDiliza ungalibalanga ukunika ingxelo kumagqala omzabalazo afana notata Oliver Reginald Tambo oChrisani oJoslovo nabanye haha sukude khondwana xahel phezulu.
Thank you very much, Comrade Humphrey. Colleagues, comrades, shall we all rise? Sicule uliza lisidinga lakho. Liza lisidinga lakho. Titoko.
Dear
At this point, I will invite Dr. Bongiwe Mbuwako. Dr. Bongiwe Mbuwako. Thank you, Program Director, Honorable Minister, Chaplain General, Sicelo Shiceka, sihlobo nezalamane, indlu yonke ngokubanzi, ndiyanibulisa ngolusuku lanamhlanje lukaSicelo Shiceka. Lixesha elinzima nelibuhlungu elikum when I have to bid farewell to my patient who passed on in my hands. Ayindisithelanga eyokuba inxeba linzulu ingakumbi kumama wakhe, kwinkosikazi yakhe uMadlamini, abantwana bakhe kwakunye nefamily yakhe ngokubanzi. I share your grief and sorrow and pray that God will give you strength to carry on with your lives. Igama lam ndingubongiwe, ndingwakwambuwako, ndisuka eMthatha, bendigqirha kaShiceka, ndikwayi-family doctor kaShiceka eseTranskei. I am here today to share my experience with you as umongi kaSicelo Shiceka. On the 19th of April, I felt honored and I was excited to meet the minister for the first time. Little did I know that an intense doctor-patient relationship was about to begin. Sicelo's fight began pretty smoothly under my jurisdiction. At the beginning, he displayed tremendous courage, will to conquer the sickness and have his health restored. He was, of course, very optimistic and most of the time laughed off his sickness. Yes, he was so much wanted to match the victor. However, as the process moved forward, he began to experience bump in the road. That is when he let his true colors come out. Inkani kaSicelo, he was so stubborn. Sometimes he wanted to take over my prescriptions. Ifamily yakhe ingandinqinela. Ngentseni yange-29, Sicelo's condition deteriorated. We resuscitated uSicelo the whole day, that was on Sunday, until early hours of Monday. Apho iselo lela hlanza, wasishiya uSicelo. To kwifamily yakhe, ndibulela inkxaso, intsebenziswano, uthando, nethemba ebebelibeke kum ngobomi kaSicelo. To kuSicelo, lala kakuhle sukude. Ugqatso olufezile. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bongiwe Mbuwako. I will now call on Mr. Mbui Dlamini to read a message from Comrade Sicelo Shiceka's wife. Bona izwe lakho wethu uxoleli zono zalo ungathobi.
Good morning. My name is Mbui Dlamini, and I'm reading this message titled A Letter to Mr. Shiceka on behalf of our mother. It reads as follows. I thought I was going to tell you this in person. Indeed, this is what we had agreed upon. I did not deviate from the plan. I planned our meeting in a structured way. I carefully allocated time in a structured way. In fact, I did everything according to plan. But on hindsight, I now face the harsh realization that what I did not do in any way was to take a peek at God's structured plan. I wanted to tell you that I will miss your outgoing and easy disposition, and that it is okay to offer lifts to complete strangers at the very risk of placing us all in danger. I wanted to tell you that I'll miss your positive outlook of life, specifically when you used to encourage me not to waver or back down on what I believed in. What is more important is the fact that you never broke that promise of rendering unwavering support to me. I wanted to tell you that I will miss your act of kindness and generosity, and that I always offered to assist anyone where you could. Irrespective of whether you know them or not, I must admit I found that strange at first, but with the passage of time, I came to realize that this is who you were. I wanted to tell you that I'll miss our robust debates, specifically on issues on tradition versus Western culture. I wanted to tell you that to be a king, you did not need to be born from a royal family. The way you handled yourself in terms of giving direction and your leadership style, your unwavering and total dedication in the liberation and struggle of our country was enough to earn you your own throne in your special kingdom. I wanted to tell you that I'll miss your positive energy in that light and amidst of all difficulties. You used to say that, Indoda iyawa ivuke madlamini. You used to say that it matters not if you go down. What is important is the ability for you to spring up back on your feet and carry on. I remember like it was yesterday when we used to crisscross Gauteng with the quest of addressing the problem of informal settlements and disparities in terms of town planning. I wanted to tell you that you will be okay, and that even though sometimes life looks a bit dim and gloom, you should remember that there is always a rainbow after a storm. I wanted to tell you that our rainbow was on the horizon, and that even this shall pass. I wanted to tell you that only people who are ever spoken about are those who are worth speaking about. I wanted to tell you that you should always remember who you are, and that like the lessons that you gave me, it was your turn to stand by and believe with your conviction. I wanted to tell you that I will miss your loud laughter, specifically when I used to threaten to disappear from the face of the earth. I wanted to tell you you are the most special person to Bonolo and I. In that whilst a lot of people could never understand our lifestyle, we were always never bothered, as we knew that our relationship was deep, profound, and built on solid foundation. I wanted to tell you that you are going to get better, and that we are going to take the program of rural regeneration to greater heights. We are going to develop university towns. We are going to ensure that we turn around the plight of poverty in the outskirts of our country. I wanted to tell you that I will always love you, and that I would never break the vows we took, the simple vows which forms the sanctity of marriage, till death do us part. Yes, I had planned in a very structured way, but God's plan was structured in another way. Rest in peace, Subute. You fought a good fight, till we meet again as per God's promise. With tons of love, Mrs. Shiceka.
very much kubantwana baka Sicelo, Comrade Sicelo Shiceka. Ngoku, we will receive a tribute from Mr. Mshieni Sokoni, who is a friend of the late Comrade Sicelo Shiceka. Kodwa ngoku ndizawunqumla ixesha ngoku. Because I'm told that ngo-11 file siphume up. Thank you very much.
Masibulise ku program director no tata abafundisi uChapelo ANC noma Gadlela apha emva kwami sibulise inkokheli zakwa ANC abazili abakhokhelwa ngumama uQhamela noma Dlamini extended family nomndilili wonke ke ohlanganisa thina yabulela ke program director yethuba osipha lona, but also to indicate that unengxaki yexesha ifika kakubika ingxaki yexesha xa kuyi-10 yam program director ento ziyenzela. Thank you very much. Program Director, masiqale sithi kuqala kwabaka Shiceka akuhlangana ngehlanga. Ifamily le kaShiceka abomkhondwana abosukuda amahamza esuka nayo kude comrades wethu uyazi ukude apho suka khona nani besingathetha ke langa litshone andisazuyana kakhulu ke ngenxa yengcebiso ekhona ngaphandle kokuthi uqabane uShiceka sahlangana naye pha ko1987 at the height of repression yaka PW Botha kwathi ke emzabalazweni wethu thina sekukhosatu sahlangana naye sasinama office ke ayephaya ekhoneni kaWanderers in Plain Street, and those offices were called the Freedom Square because most of our campaigns would start there from that Freedom Square. When I met Comrade Shiceka the first time, there was at the time the structure that was called Johannesburg COSATU Local. Comrade Jane, I don't see him here, but he was the General Secretary of COSATU at the time. And the campaigns, most of the campaigns of COSATU would be directed by that structure. Ukufakwa Comrade Shiceka today, I see a lot of comrades here who were there, who were part of that Johannesburg local, who were part of those campaigns. To an extent, that program director, I ended up thinking that am I the right person to talk about Comrade Shiceka? But Comrade Shiceka to me was more than a friend. Was a personal friend. I mean, was more than a comrade. He was a personal friend. We shared a lot. We shared the good times when he was happy. When he was happy, you would hear him saying, "Hey, Endot, do you agree with what they are saying?" When you didn't agree with him, he did not agree with you. He would not try to please you. He either agreed with you or did not agree with you. So around 1988, in those campaigns that were waged by COSATU, because most of the organizations like UDF, they were banned at the time, so COSATU was the only light that was there. And a lot of leaders were arrested. There were national campaigns like your Release Mandela campaign, but us in Johannesburg, we had our own small campaigns as well because the leadership was being arrested here. I remember Upra Ambilapa, Comrade Masondo, we had a campaign around the Release Masondo campaign. I'm sure those who were there would remember that campaign. And whilst we were busy there with that, the COSATU leadership would be arrested as well. It was a very busy time. But in all those times, I've never seen such an energetic person. When you think that now we have finished our meetings late the previous day, then the next day he calls you around 4 o'clock. Yendot, usalele, liyahamba lelizwe leli wena usalele lapho. And he said that throughout the time of his life. I remember recently when he was sick, sometimes I went to see him. I didn't know what to say. A few days went by without me phoning him. He called me. Attended to call called Fuchane. Kanjani Sugute now? Why am I phoning to Tulele? Oh, I'm sorry, Sugute. So Mkolisa and Eli Kubeg. But around 1989, then he himself, he had become a secretary. And one of the reasons he had become a secretary, there was his energy. I see his energy. It also assisted us to make him a secretary. This very young secretary, Wekosatu, after Opera Ambi. But if you remember those times, there were tensions. I'm sure COSATU is on Kolela, but there were tensions within COSATU because there was a struggle to adopt the Freedom Charter for the COSATU, what you call unions. Obviously, many of them, and our association really revolved around that, the adoption of the Freedom Charter at the time. So, well, the time went. We went to the legislature in 1994. Well, I won't repeat what has been said about his passion for the local government. In fact, Comrade Shiceka, when he was given a task, he would give 101% for that task. But the last just light thing that I would like to say, Program Director, is when he and Comrade MJ Mahlangu went to some country in Africa. When he went there, Comrade MJ is the chairperson of the NCOP, as you know. Comrade Shiceka was the chairperson of a committee accompanying Comrade Mahlangu. But when they got there, the car came to pick up the leader. Comrade Shiceka jumps in and calls Comrade MJ. Comrade MJ comes, and this is the direction that we are taking. So he was that type of a person.
Thank you very much. Indeed, he was. Those of us who served with him in the National Executive Committee and in Cabinet, indeed will know that that's Sicelo for you. I will now invite Comrade Paul Mashatile to speak on behalf of the Provincial Executive Committee and the National Executive Committee of the ANC. A revolutionary song, please.
Aningayiphinda kancane. No, dume binang pina nelibina, leska bina kanna. Rebina ka Sicelo jwale. Long live the spirit of Comrade Sicelo Shiceka. Long live. Long live the spirit of Comrade Sicelo Shiceka. Long live. Matla. All power. All power. Nekbatla rebine hanyane marana kwerisile. Mutlomo asere tsware tlabina happy. Thank you very much, Program Director. Our sister Cleo Masala Mazamini, Umamaga Comrade Sicelo Makamela, the children of Comrade Sicelo, umdeni wonke wakashiceka masukude wonke, Premier of Gauteng Comrade Nomvula Mukonyani, all other premiers here present, ministers, deputy ministers, members of parliament and provincial legislatures, members of the diplomatic corps, executive mayors and councillors here present, leaders of political parties here present, leaders of civil society formations, trade unions, traditional leaders, Zanozuk, comrades and friends, I stand here today to pay tribute and bid farewell to a comrade whom I have worked for many years in the liberation movement, Comrade Sicelo Shiceka. Comrade Sicelo was fondly known to many of us as Comrade SS. Sis Cleo and the children, Makamela and Mdenwonke, we in the liberation movement have lost an outstanding comrade and a dedicated leader of our people. You have lost a husband, a lover, a companion, a father, an uncle. We wish to assure you that we share your pain because Comrade Sicelo was one of us. Your loss is our loss. We want to say to members of the family, as we bid farewell to Comrade SS, we wish to thank the Shiceka family for making him available to participate in the national liberation struggle. His participation allowed us to benefit from the wisdom, the courage and dedication of one of the finest freedom fighters of our time, Comrade Sicelo Shiceka, Comrade SS. We thank the family for allowing Comrade Sicelo to serve his beloved country and its people as we began the journey in 1994 to build a united, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist and prosperous South Africa that belongs to all who live in it, black and white, united in their diversity. Comrade SS was an outstanding and well-rounded comrade who served the liberation movement and his country selflessly and with dedication. With the passing on of Comrade Sicelo, our forward march towards the National Democratic Society has been dealt a severe blow. Comrade Sicelo's passing on is indeed a setback to our ongoing struggle for social and economic transformation. Death has robbed us of one of our finest cadres. It has taken away from us a comrade and leader of our people who was determined to lead the offensive against the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and underdevelopment. Since his early days as a young person, Comrade SS was among those brave young people who stood firm in their opposition to apartheid rule. This he did fully aware that he was placing his life, his future, and that of his family at a great risk. His only motivation was that he was placing his only motivation was the unending belief that victory against the apartheid crime was certain. When we were with Comrade Sicelo in the youth and student movement in the 1980s, we drew strength from his dedication and courage to the cause of freedom in our lifetime. At the height of the apartheid brutality, he was amongst those who were brave enough to stand and be counted. During those difficult times, he was always ready to say, "Uma ufuna ama volunteer, tuma mina." Later in his life as a leader of the workers in the progressive trade union movement, COSATU, he worked hard to defend and deepen the gains of the working people of our country. As he did his work, he displayed steely determination and revolutionary discipline. He carried the same attributes as a leader of the South African Communist Party in Gauteng. When we were rebuilding ANC structures after the unbanning in 1990, Comrade Sicelo was there with us. Even at the time, he continued to conduct himself in an exemplary manner, a manner befitting of a true ANC cadre. He was always determined to ensure that the ANC and its alliance partners grow stronger. Comrade Sicelo was one of the leaders who took seriously the views of ordinary people. He always took pride in putting people first. In paying tribute to Comrade Sicelo and the work he has done for our movement and our country, we will continue to build a strong ANC that is rooted amongst our communities. This is an ANC that is a leader of society, capable of leading the daily struggles of our people. We will strengthen our efforts to build an ANC that continues to be the custodians of the aspirations of the people of South Africa, an ANC that is a true parliament of the people. Drawing lessons from the life of Comrade Sicelo, we will continue to work hard to build a strong and functional ANC-led alliance. Equally, we will pay attention to the task of building a people-centered developmental state that has the capacity to redirect resources in favor of the poor and the marginalized in our society. We will continue to build a caring and responsive government that puts the needs of the people first. Comrade Sicelo left us at a time when our movement is celebrating 100 years of its existence. As we celebrate this milestone, we remember the many sacrifices by ordinary men and women who fought tirelessly in the struggle for national liberation. We also remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice for us to enjoy freedom today. Next month, the ANC in Gauteng will receive the centenary torch, marking the further continuation of our provincial centenary celebrations. Let us use the occasion of our centenary celebrations to strengthen our efforts to renew the ANC. This we must do in order to safeguard our movement's role and place as the glue that unites all the people of South Africa behind the goal of a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. It is this society that Comrade Sicelo dedicated his life to. Let the passing of Comrade Sicelo, therefore, inspire us to work even harder towards the National Democratic Society. I want, in conclusion, once more to say to the family, once again, we thank you for having allowed your son to be part of this big movement of our people. Comrade SS, you have made your contribution. We will pick up your fallen spear and continue with the struggle. Aluta! Aluta! Long live the spirit of Comrade Sicelo Shiceka. Long live Matla. All power. Ndiabulela. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Enkosi, I will afford you an opportunity to sing again. Thank you very much. Colleagues, allow me to make some changes to the program. We now have to allow Minister Baloyi to give us an oration on behalf of the government of the Republic of South Africa. It has to be done before 11. People will come in afterwards, please. This is a directive I've just been given. Thank you very much.
Program Director, the Shiceka family, King Zanosuko Sitao and other traditional leaders present here, ministers, deputy ministers, premiers and MECs, members of parliament and provincial legislatures, ANC leaders and leaders of the tripartite alliance, leaders of all other political parties present here, mayors and all councillors, religious and cultural leaders. As the government of the Republic of South Africa, we lower the country's flag as we lay to rest one of those pioneer leaders of a democratic South African government, Comrade Sicelo Shiceka, a former MEC for Gauteng Department of Local Government, former Minister of Provincial and Local Government, later turned Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. We do so with full acknowledgement that when he was still full of life and in these trenches, he gave his all to the call of duty, selfless and generous. We do so with doubtless realization that his footprints are visibly engraved in the history of governance in the Gauteng province, as he is one among those who led the development of policies that defined what local government had to adopt as a take-off speed in the dawn of democracy, a sustainable foundation on which we continue to build even today. He was there when we steered the rationalization of government structures up to a point when he was deployed to become a member of parliament in Cape Town. We lay him to rest today, having noted his unwavering commitment and hard work when he was deployed to government as a minister of provincial and local government. Comrade Shiceka created space for himself and marched forward with the work to be done. He was there to manage and implement the directives of Project NMOS, which is the national macro organization of the state that saw, amongst others, the change of focus of the Department of Provincial and Local Government into cooperative governance and traditional affairs. He led the process, directly involved and proud to even refer himself as a choir conductor who did not only move with the lyric of the songs, but could vibrate with the voices of all choristers. As government will lower the country's flag, fully observing that Mr. Shiceka departed at a time where not only his family and the people still expected more from him, but clearly that he would have liked to live to see the further transformation of both local government and traditional affairs matters. He championed the local government turnaround strategy, a bold step only the brave could take, a journey to a brighter destination, yet routed through rugged terrains, rocky inclines, and sometimes slippery descents with coordination difficulties. A journey derived from deep-seated political will to do things differently, with a view to strengthen confidence between the people and the government through effective, efficient, responsive, and developmental government structures. Playing a role of coordinating distinct and autonomous institutions have never been an easy task. Perhaps the expression may fit that it is not everybody's cup of tea. Yet, Comrade Shiceka would shout and demand that the choir should carry on with the song. He led the establishment of the Department of Traditional Affairs and continued to manage programs started before, of course with a challenging responsibility of steering the ship over somehow unstable waters in the transformation of traditional and indigenous matters. This too was not easy. If his soul is to rest in peace, those of us who remain behind will have to embrace the programs they live to see to the end, and indeed that these programs should not be compromised, as his was not a mere job-for-job sake issue, but a deep commitment to see things happen. He did not believe in watching things happen, but he derived pleasure in getting things done by him or through direct command, sometimes taking shortcuts. He used to tell us that he was not a passenger in the history-making vehicle, but a history maker himself, irrespective of what it will take. He was decisive, perhaps in his unique way, and this created friends in some areas, but also strained relationships in certain instances. We remember him in action. The people of Mutse, Matatiel, Bahamutibi, and others saw the history maker in action, and we remain called upon today to pronounce ourselves still on the stances he took in some of those issues. We will remember him in action calling for robust engagement. We will remember him in action getting the people to be organized and in a position to raise their issues sharply with government. Yes, Comrade Shiceka was highly decisive. And we will sometimes remember him saying that what matters is the position and voice of the people expressed by the people themselves. He was a people's person, and on our behalf he sometimes had to walk among sharp thorns and face serious challenges. A case in point here is a famous so-called referendum for the people to decide on their demarcation. As we say farewell to Comrade Shiceka, we know that he was a member of Parliament, and that as such he would always strive to ensure that parliamentarians assist in strengthening a bond between the people and the government, and of course drive the agenda of the state through effective feedback mechanisms, sharing information and thus empowering the people, initiating development projects, mobilizing stakeholders and ensure effective oversight. If his soul is to rest in peace, all parliamentarians should pick up the spear and keep the executive on their toes, all to ensure that our democracy is protected. As we lower the country's flag and lay Comrade Shiceka to rest, we are sure that we are not burying an angel, but a human being, like all other leaders, fallible in life and capable of making mistakes, like we all do, and want to make a call that people should not take to the extreme corners, sing holier than thou, and make judgment calls. Shiceka this, Shiceka that. The Bible teaches us not to judge others, lest we will be judged ourselves. As government, we are convinced that Comrade Shiceka fought many successful fights, ran and completed many races, and he leaves scores of legacies. Program Director, it has never been easy to bury your loved one, and will therefore not say people should take it easy in this regard. We are burying a father, a family man, a community leader, and all these people will miss him as we do as government. It is sad. On this occasion, and at this point, allow me, however, to borrow from the words of the poet Charlotte Bront in her poem, The Party. In it she tells us that, and I quote, "There is no use in weeping, though we are condemned to part. There is such a thing as keeping a remembrance in one's heart. When we have left each friend and brother, when we are parted wide and far, we will think of one another as even better than we are. So there is no use in weeping. Bear a cheerful spirit still. Never doubt that fate is keeping future good for present ill." Close quote. As government, we invite the family of Shiceka to join us in celebrating the life of Sicelo Shiceka in the know and in pride that the legacy he leaves behind is the contribution the family made to the people of South Africa. We are convinced that the country has seen such a contribution and is proud about it. We run out of words to express ourselves on how thankful we are for your contribution as a family in releasing Comrade Shiceka to work with us for the people of South Africa. Yes, if Comrade Shiceka is to rest in peace, there should be no disconnect between the people of South Africa and the government. To our fallen colleague, our comrade, Comrade Sicelo Shiceka, may your soul rest in peace. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, Minister Baloyi. At this point, I will invite the Premier of Gauteng, Ms. Nomvula Mokonyane, a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, to give us a tribute. Angithathe leli thuba ngibhekisa inhlonipho yami kwabaka Shiceka, ikakhulu umama uOscarina nenkosikazi udadewethu Cleopatra, ingane nomndeni ngokupheleleyo. Ngibonge ngibhekisa inhlonipho yami kubafundisi ho ya ka ditulo tsa bona ka ofapana. Ke dumedise ketapele ya mmuso wa rona, the ministers, our premiers, in particular the Premier of the Eastern Cape, the leadership of the African National Congress, led by the Treasurer General, Comrade Matthew Potsa, members of the Executive Council of the Gauteng Provincial Government, members of Parliament, the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, mayors, councillors, fellow South Africans. We are here to celebrate the life of somebody who we have heard so much about this morning, somebody who was very decisive. I'm not going to say much, but on behalf of the Gauteng Provincial Government, ngithi kini nabakwa Shiceka akwehlanga lungehlanga ngesintu bathi isitsha esihle asidleli. Lalani ngenxeba ningalibali ukuthi manithandaza ngemihla namalanga nithi intando yakhe mayenziwe emhlabeni. Masikwamkele njengabantu abakholiwe ukuthi nathi usambele ngalendlela afike ngayo ukuthi umdali wethu wamthatho wakhe ngelo xesha naye bebona ukuthi makamthathe ngalo. I went through the memory lane of the Gauteng Provincial Government and about who exactly Comrade Sicelo Shiceka was as the member of the Executive Council. But just to remind many of us, Comrade Sokoni spoke about where they came from. In 1994, when we all came into Parliament, in the legislature, Gauteng did not have a legislature. We were assembling at the Nasrec Bull Ring. And in that bull ring, amongst those that were there, were the two Shiceka kids. We had Umandisa, very young, brave and talented, assertive. You also had Comrade Sicelo. Many of us were not used to be dressed in formal, were wearing suits and ties, costumes and stockings. And amongst those that I still remember walking into that bull ring with his own movement is Comrade Sicelo with his bottle green suit. That many MPLs, I don't know where they bought it, but it came out that they bought it somewhere at Surtis in Commissioner Street. All of them will come into that bull ring and sizizo ukuthi ngempela siyabaholi siphethe manje. And we were at pains to, amongst others, help the younger sister Umandisa to be executive. Umandisa will come in her jeans and her moccasin or her cavella from Spitz. But uSicelo euswenka, you'll always see him with his bottle green suit or a maroon suit, walking into the ballroom, into the bull ring in Nasrec. And many of us did not have an understanding of what this parliament, this thing of being a member of parliament being. So we were the first to come into that responsibility. And as Comrade Sokoni has said, Sicelo made sure that his presence there is felt. He was one of the MECs of Etimage Figa Lapayan. You know his movement and the shoulders. You'll know that no ufigilu so good. And Mage Figile Lapo, as an MEC, he did not only make his presence felt through his dress, his actions as well. Those of us who have been with him in the Gauteng provincial government, in the legislature, will remember that he was a champion of Ivusana Matoloba, a campaign to revitalize our old townships. And amongst those townships that he did a lot of work in is in Sharpeville, is in Sebokeng, in the Val. It's in Ivory Park in Midrand, where Comrade Sicelo worked, and he made sure that indeed roads were tarred, there were street lights, there was refuse removal. But his decisiveness sometimes went to extremes. When there was a time when there was illegal connection here in this province, Comrade Sicelo went to the cabinet and said, I'm going to make a decisive intervention. Comrade Paul, you'll remember, he hired a caterpillar. He drove that caterpillar himself and took out the cables so that there cannot be any illegal connection. And he remained in that community of Kwate, Matsakane, and Tutuza, and went out to educate our people. So it is correct that indeed he was bold to take the right decisions in the interest of our people, and even go to an extent of making our people understand why those harsh decisions had to be taken. When he had to do work and go and fight fires from one municipality to the other, Comrade Sicelo would actually say, I'm going to visit all my municipalities in Gauteng in a day. And we'll get a helicopter move from Carltonville, Ayankungwini, Asuga Yetsagani, Abuya Yefanda in a day. And he's done. When he comes back the following day, he's got a report. He has interacted with municipalities and so forth. This is the man we are about, not what we are told of. This is the person we are about. And on that, I want to say, Shiceka, nizele nazalela lelilizwe. Siyabonga ngemisebenzi yakhe. And all of us, we want to assure you, we will forever celebrate the good things that he has done, and will forever appreciate that we were associated with him. I had an opportunity as well to interact with him, with Comrade Nati, Ebembiza bani Unyambose. Mageno Unyambose Nombalula, and you will call Umbalula Uchola. So they will be so good, no Chola, no Nyambose. And bonke aboswenka bafaka amasudu abamahle namahembe abamahle befika laphana ku NEC. Uzababuza ukuthi eNyambose imalini lesudu yakho izapha nomvula. Uyayibona le yami jonga le kaNyambose. Ujonge le kaJola. Uyayibona yami abaza pho nithenga khona apha. And because uNyambose is calm, the one who will actually take offense will be uJola. And uJola will feel so bad, no, and his movement will make his suit look better than all of theirs. So that's the Sicelo we know. Somebody who will always make his presence felt, right or wrong. And that's exactly what we want to tell you and tell the world, that we know him better. Ke motho le yena, hauna motho ya senang bukwa ba hae. Modimo wa hae o mo tshwaretse. Modimo wa hae o mo nkile ka obane le ngwana wa hae. Le rona ha re ikopeleng tshwarelo, so that le rona tsatsi le re lengwe a re hopole. Lalane magala le ngenqeba.
Sanibonani. Nyambose
angeke nditsho uba esa story akasigqibangu nomvuli. La conversation between uSicelo noJola noNyambosi ngeke. At this point ndivumeleni ndimeme uComrade uAngie. I'm told that she's here now. Comrade Angie is a Minister of Basic Education. Wait a minute. A member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC and the President of the ANC Women's League. Elilizwe lela makhosikazi Program Director, allow me, on behalf of the ANC and its leagues, to give our greetings to the Sicelo family, the wife, the mother, the children, his siblings, and the entire family. Also, let me bring the greetings of the ANC to the leadership of the ANC and its alliance partners, leaders of government from both national, provincial, and local government, leadership of the ANC at all levels, fellow South Africans, comrades, and compatriots. Program Director, it has indeed been a very difficult time for our country and the ANC with the untimely passing of Comrade Sicelo on the 30th of April at the age of 45 in Mthatha after a long illness. Even as the wind blows our national flag at half-mast, it cannot do much to blow away the emptiness visited upon us by the cruel messenger of death. We are here as the ANC say to the family of the late Shiceka that the African National Congress is with you during the difficult times of the loss of your beloved soul. You should know that you are not alone in spite of the deep cuts visited upon you by this fact of mortality that we never get used to, precisely because each life is very precious. Parting ways is never treated as symbolic of the grand scheme of things. Those of us in the ANC were the privilege not only to work with Comrade Sicelo, but also live side by side with him in the revolutionary tripartite alliance and in the historical mass democratic movement
know the passion that drove, like a whirlwind, his resolve to live for the love of freedom. Sicelo was a revolutionary who loved and fought for freedom, always working amongst people, but also leading from the front. Comrade Sicelo was always there in action. I recall in one incident, President Zuma referring to him as Comrade Oma Fulufulu. How accurate. Comrade Sicelo was really Mafulufulu. Some of us who had the privilege not only to work close with him know exactly how hard the comrade worked. Comrade Sicelo was capable, determined to succeed in anything he put his mind to, and he spared no energy if he had to do anything. Comrade Sicelo knew that you have to do today what has to be done today, because tomorrow may never come. Amongst many assignments, one had the privilege to work with Comrade Sicelo was in Kyalami, in the old Kyalami, where who contributed to the construction of a new South Africa, a reliable and a dependable comrade, I repeat, comrade director. Sicelo loved his family. I know he loved my son and the kids. He cared deeply about his mother, his siblings. Comrade Sicelo's face will glow when he proudly and boastingly speaks about his family, speaking with lots of fondness. And on behalf of the African National Congress, we expect to lose sight of this historic task of transforming the South African state. Comrade Shiceka would have wanted to see a South Africa that is free of triple ills of inequality, poverty, and joblessness. Picking up the spear from where he left will valorize the selfless life he had lived and deliver eternal peace to his patriotic soul. May the soul of Comrade Shiceka rest in peace. He will be sorely missed by the comrades in the ANC National Executive Committee.
Of Amambondo, King Zanozuko Sicao. A revolutionary song, please. Nansi ngoma yakhe siza nayo ixolo kancinci.
Program Director.
Ukuba bendingumshumayeli bendiyakuthi ifikile ejidini. This is how we come to the end of this particular broadcast. But very briefly, I want to ask you, Commander, particular broadcast. And with that, I'll hand over to my colleague, Tammy Dixon, on the other side of this precinct. From me, Vuyo Mvoko, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.
Enkosi kakhulu Vuyo ngenene nangenyaniso bathethe kwavokotheka bekhumbula eliqhawe neligorha elilisebenze kakhulu kulwela inkululeko yelizwe loMzantsi Afrika. This is where now we come to an end, and in a very few minutes from now there will be that cemetery. That's all we have time for you this morning here, and we're wrapping up for now from this side. My name is Tammy Dixon, and we're crossing over now to our studios in Johannesburg.
Well, thank you very much to my colleagues, Tammy Dixon and Vuyo Mvoko. They're live from the Standard Bank Arena at the funeral service of the late former Minister